Welcome to the Emergency Management section of the County Officials Academy. I'm Mary Senger, Emergency Manager for Burleigh County and also Emmons County. I'm also a member of the Emergency Management Support Team for the state of North Dakota. Emergency management at the local level can be city, county, or tribal. The local programs report to the state, which is the North Dakota Department of Emergency Services, and then federal, which is Federal Emergency Management Agency, otherwise known as FEMA. Every incident starts and ends at the local level. It's yours. Think about that as we go through this presentation. Phases often occur simultaneously. As soon as an incident occurs, we start planning for recovery as well as what we could do to prevent or lessen the damage for future incidents, which we refer to as mitigation. All this occurs while we're still coordinating the response to the incident. So who are we? Most of us are part-time and or new to the position. It takes a while to learn the position and responsibilities, as well as developing our internal and external networks. Emergency managers are sometimes combined with other positions such as 911 coordinator, risk management, veteran service officer, and even sheriff deputy. Emergencies and disasters are not new and have increased in number and magnitude over the years. For the following slides, imagine your jurisdiction going through any of the following disasters. Are you ready? Have you met your emergency manager? What are your potential roles? The upper slides show some disasters over the years, but the 2001 Bismarck hailstorm, you'll notice on the bridge, there's people standing there wearing shorts. This was June. Really rapid incident and an anomaly for Bismarck. You'll see the Northwood tornado, which was really devastating. The Dickinson tornado in 2008, the North Dakota National Guard was a partner for that event, and curfews were instituted for that event. And then our infamous Bismarck ice jam in 2009 was also a collaborative effort with the North Dakota National Guard. These are a little more recent. The Linton flood in 2009, worst disaster in their history. It was rapid snowmelt combined with ice chunks. And then the Burleigh flood in 2011 was also the worst disaster in history for that county since the construction of the Garrison Dam. And I'll discuss more about the 2011 flooding in Burleigh County in later slides. 2015, we had a significant rural fire. This particular fire, we used 3 National Guard helicopters when most of the state was in a red flag warning. And just a reminder, National Guard assets are not free. More flooding, not to the levels of 2009 or 2011, but lessons to be learned, including future mitigation projects. And then lastly, COVID-19. So this is our current emergency, and it's a public health emergency. Emergency managers are available to help with logistics for public health and for first responders. So 2011, in my emergency management history, the 2011 flooding presented with the most items I've ever worked with in any disaster. Almost 3 months above flood stage for an event that started in May and it ended in September. 706 homes were evacuated. We used an estimated 10 million sandbags between the city of Bismarck and Burleigh County, nearly 7 miles of levees, and 14,562 hours were utilized by our highway department for this event. That's the equivalent of a full-time employee working a little over 7 years. Public information is crucial. I cannot stress this enough. And public officials, you need to be part of the press conferences, the press releases, and available. You are a voice, and these are your constituents. Work with your public information officers and get talking points to assist in discussions and provide accurate information. Does your jurisdiction have a website or social media? Do you monitor and or follow your own sites? Who is the point of contact? These mediums are your brand for your jurisdiction, and it's a direct reflection on your jurisdiction. The listing here is all the mediums we used in 2011 to get the information out to the community. Our 2011 partners, this was our network with the Emergency Operations Center, and the Emergency Operations Center was the common connection with all of these partners. Community is also included as a partner, and community is always a big partner. We continually provided information on the incident, what we were doing, what we wanted the community to do. Jurisdiction recommendations. Many jurisdictions have an emergency reserve fund. What is your policy to access the funds? Most jurisdictions require an emergency be declared first before accessing emergency reserve funds. Do you know how much is in your emergency reserve fund? Do you have any emergency authorities in your ordinances, and what are they? What roles do you have in your jurisdiction's emergency operations plan? Have they been reviewed with you? Meet with your emergency manager to review their responsibilities, local plans, and your role. North Dakota Century Code for Emergency Services, it's very black and white. All areas of the state must be served by a local or regional emergency management organization. That second one talks about a local emergency planning committee. Are you, or at least one member of the council, a member of this committee? Century Code also provides the guidance on disaster, emergency, or evacuation orders. Did you know the chair had authority to declare an emergency or disaster for up to 7 days? After that 7 days is over, or before the 7 days is over, the full commission must meet to either affirm the emergency or end the emergency declaration. Keep in mind that most local events do not receive any reimbursement. Documentation must start and be maintained for every incident, especially if there's a chance of reimbursement. If we do rise to the level of a FEMA declared disaster, it is usually a 75% federal share with a 25% non-federal cost share basis. And that's for things like debris removal, emergency protective measures, like buying extra barricades to close down roads. Damage to roads and bridges is always a big one for our snowstorms and flood events. Your public buildings and equipment, utilities, parks, and some of the other facilities. And, so most disasters, the brunt of the cost is borne on the local level. So some of the factors that determine whether a declaration reaches that FEMA reimbursement level is the estimated cost of the assistance, which is based on a population and per capita threshold that FEMA has. And the local impacts, what critical facilities such as roadways, bridges, public buildings, what was really affected in the disaster, and insurance coverage. So if you remember the picture of the significant hailstorm, that did rise to a FEMA declaration because of the damage to the vehicles. It paid the copay for the insurance. We had a lot of damage to some of the roads and buildings. But those are just some of the factors that FEMA takes into consideration. So the emergency manager role. We are continually planning to respond and recover from disasters, which include preparedness and projects to help eliminate and or lessen the effects of future disasters, which we also refer to as mitigation. Local declarations are filed with the North Dakota Department of Emergency Services and publicized. And we get stuff. Oftentimes local resources are exhausted and there's nowhere else to go. So we need to utilize mutual aid and request state resources. I can't express enough how much documentation is crucial, and it's your conduit to potential reimbursement. If it's a record of the incident and includes your staffing, responses, resources, volunteers, expenses. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. and there's no reimbursement if there's no documentation. Emergency management also is involved in a lot of grants. So we have grant opportunities for planning, training, and equipment, and some of the grants require a local match. Most programs and grants require quarterly reporting as part of the process. And then there's also training. We exercise for real world events, and sometimes real world events occur and planned training gets canceled. This last slide is my contact information. I'm available for questions, comments, email me or call me at any time. Our websites and our social media sites are also available and open. It's important as government entities, when you do have social media accounts, that they can still be viewed on the public end without people having to have an account. So just make sure your accounts aren't restricted so that we abide by the open records and public access. So again, if you guys have any questions for me, I'm open for questions, and you have my contact information to call or email me at any time.